We are in Pesachim Daf Kuf Yudalid Omid Aleph. Afreilchen Purim. We are 3 lines down. Kuf Yudalid Omid Aleph. Omer Rabba Barchana. We're finishing up the Agada to Gemara. Omer Rabba Barchana. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. We finally get to a Rabba Barchana. He's the big Baal Memra of Agada to Gemara. Rabba Barchana. You know, remember the Gemara is in Baba Basra. There was a Rabba Barchana. Yeah. Amar Rabbi Barchana Rabbi Yochanan. Mishmeid Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi. This is in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi. Here's advice: Echol batzel, eat onions, v'shev betzel, and then you'll have you'll be able to sit in the shade, meaning you'll have a roof over your head. If you keep costs down, you eat vegetables, then you'll have you'll be able to dwell in shade. You'll have a roof over your head. Don't go after geese and fowl. And you'll be always running after it. So you're not going to end up having a roof over your head. Yeah. That was one. If you will lessen what you eat and what you drink, then you'll be able to add to your home. The Ben Yada explains, there's a big mile living on the second floor over the first floor. He says, maybe you have a better view, better air, maybe some less rodents, less noise. So the problem though is you got to be able to get up the stairs. So he says, if you lose some weight, you don't eat so much, then you'll be able to go up to the second floor. When Ula came from Eretz Yisrael, he came to Bavel and he said, Omar, matla matlan b'ma'arova. Matla, I don't know what this was, 1 second. Matla matlan b'ma'arova. The ochel aleisa.
These fatty meats, al yasa.
What is it?
From this creditors.
What's matla matlan? Oh, a mashal, that's what it is. Matla matlan b'ma'arova. They say a mashal in Eretz Yisrael. The achol alisa, if you eat fatty, you eat the tail, which is a fatty piece of meat. So tashi ba'alisa. So then you got to hide from your creditors because you're spending a lot of money on food. And you're gonna, when they come looking for you, you're gonna have to go hide. The achol kakuli, but you eat veggies. Akiluli the masa shachiv. You could sit with all a good dimension in the city. You can hang around with everybody because no one's going after you. All right, good advice. Keep costs down. All righty, back to an hour Makayim, sort of the halacha that on Pesach, on Yudalid, you're supposed to start Shleishim Yom Kodem Machag. You're supposed to be Derish B'Inyanei Shel Yom. So Shleishim Yom Kodem Erev Pesach is today on Purim. So we will begin learning about the Seder. It's like the Hillel Mishnah. Mazgu Loi Kais Rishon. They pour for him the first cup. Now the first diak is Mazgu Loi. They pour for him. And this is where we have the Indian that someone else should pour for you. This is for sure for the Baal HaSeder. They pour for him his first cup of wine. So Mazgu Loi Kais Rishon. Now we go back to Machlokes between Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, and Brachos. Beis Shammai Aimrim. First you say Kiddush, and then you make a Ber Pri Hagafen. Beis Hillel first you make a Ber Pri Hagafen, and afterwards you make Kiddush. And that's what we do like Beis Hillel. We'll see the Gemara will bring a few svaras. I guess Shachianu, they didn't mention. Somebody mentioned about Shachianu. Shachianu, it seems like everybody agrees you're going to say after you eat, after you make Kiddush, I think. Double check that. Yeah, make a shechianu. Oh, that was I knew it was a Kishmak Akash. That was Naged Inyan Diyama. What about Sha'asanisim? Why do we make a bracha? Sha'asanisim Lavisin. Be'om Mahim, Bazman Hazeh. A nice bracha. So like we make on Chanukah and Purim. So that the answer, because we're going to make the bracha asher ga'olanu at the end of Magid. And that's the same, that is a bracha of Shas Nizam. That's the bracha that Kadosh Baruch Hu redeemed us. Okay, so there's no need to make a bracha of Shas Nizam.
Usually it's not part of Kiddush.
I'm sorry?
It's not part of Kiddush.
Correct. Yeah, but normally you start you're starting your first bracha. So you make Megillah. We said Megillah, Shas Nizam, Shachianu. So here we're going to make a Shachianu, but we don't make a Shas Nizam. That's because we make a bracha asher ga'olanu. Why don't we make a bracha on Arba Kaisis? It's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan to drink Arba Kaisis. So I don't make a bracha on Arba Kaisis. Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvah v'tzivanu. What should we say? Lishtais Arba Kaisis. But you're not drinking 4 cups. You're only drinking 1. What bracha should you make? Right, but why don't make a bracha on the mitzvah to drink Arba Kaisis? So he said, because there's no, because really they couldn't figure out what to say. You can't say Asher Kedishanu Lishta is Arba Kaisis because you're only drinking 1 cup, and you can't say a bracha.
So you could say I'm drinking the first of 4 brachas, first of the 4 cups.
Right. The problem is that the first cup you would have had anyway because it's Kiddush. So that you would have had anyway. But I can't say I'm making a bracha Asher Kedishanu Lishta this kais Arba Kaisis because it's also Kiddush. I'm drinking this also because of Kiddush. So that's like a shvacha bracha. That didn't apply. Yeah, sure. Kais Rishona, you'd say on Shabbos and Yom Tov. They make a bracha on 3 kaises is not true. So that's why he says you don't make a bracha on the Arba Kaisis. It's a good kasha. I never thought of that kasha before though. Why don't I make a bracha on the Arba Kaisis? Kaveh to drink Arba Kaisis.
We don't make a bracha on
Haseba. That is true. That goes back to the raid we spoke about though. The question was why don't we make a bracha on Haseba? So there, if you hold that Haseba is just part of the mitzvah of, it's the way they were masakin that you're supposed to eat the matzah or to drink the dalakaisis. So then it's not an independent mitzvah. But if you hold it's an independent mitzvah, so that's a fair kasha. Why don't we make a bracha on Haseba? As if to a kasha. Okay. Could be there's also something that they always, it's interesting. People eat like that, right? For us, it's a big deal. For them, that's the way they did it. At least for many people. It was for the people who didn't normally do it. But it's just telling you, you're supposed to eat Passover. Yeah. Okay, fair. Zog the Hillel Gemara. Ton Rabbanan. Devarim shemem beishamei ubesil basuda. So the Brisa now lists, it's actually only going to talk about one, the one that our Mishnah discussed, but in the Gemara in Brachas, it lists a bunch of things that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argued about in relation to a Seudah. But here let's talk about this one. Beis Shammai Eimer mevarach al hayoim, ve'achar kach mevarach al yain. You first make a bracha on the day, the Kiddush, and then you make a bracha on the wine. 2 reasons he gives. Number 1, if it wasn't for Shabbos, you wouldn't be drinking wine necessarily. You don't always drink wine before the meal. So why are you having wine now? Because it's Shabbos. So the day is causing the wine. So first we talk about the day, then we drink the wine. We make a bracha on the wine. Number 1. Number 2, ukvar kiddush hayayim v'adayin yayin leiba. What happened first? The first thing to happen is it becomes Shabbos. Say it's like a chavim or shki, whatever it is. The Shabbos came in, and now you're going to go sit down to have your meal. First is this svar that I wouldn't be drinking wine now necessarily. You don't always have wine before your meal. You have wine during your meal. You don't always have it before your meal. So that's the first nakuda. The second nakuda is that what came first? Shabbos comes in before you sit down to the Suda. So therefore you should make a bracha on Shabbos before the bracha on wine. That's Beis Shammai as far as. Ubeis Hillel. Mevarach al hayayin. You first make a bracha agafen, v'achach mevarach al hayayin. Mipnei shehayayin goyrim lekiddush te'omer. Because if you don't have wine, guess what? You're not saying Kiddush. Kiddush was nitkan on wine. So if you don't have the wine, you don't say Kiddush. Now, before we get to his second point, let's just hop onto this for a moment. 1 second. Is that true? If you have no wine, you don't make Kiddush? What about if you have bread? So Yeshayim, you have a riot from this Gemara, like Rabbeinu Tam says, you don't make Kiddush on Pas.
Where are you reading?
No, I'm just letting you know that there was such an idea out there that they wanted to bring a riot from here that there's no such thing as Kiddush on Pas. The Rashbam throws in a few words. If you look down about 2, 4, 6, 8 lines down in the wide lines in the Rashbam, Shayayin Goyrim LaKiddush Teomer. Im Ein LaYayin Oipas, because if you don't have wine or bread, ain't a Mekadosh. And if you were saying Kiddush on bread, you would do the same thing as you did with wine, and you'd make a bracha on Pas before you made the Kiddush.
And what about our Mekadosh in Tefillah?
Kiddush and Tefillah. What about it? What do you mean?
We're Mekadosh the Yom in Kiddush. I mean in the Tefillah.
Correct. And therefore,
Shabbos is.
You're saying without wine.
Without wine.
Correct. Yesh Amrim, that we fulfill our mitzvah de eraisa of Kiddush in Tefillah. That's fine, but the mitzvah then whatever we're left with, the mitzvah of at the table of Kiddush is on wine.
That's true.
So you wouldn't do that if you didn't have wine or bread. Now, whether you fulfilled your mitzvah de eraisa on Friday night by davening Ma'ariv is a big tumble in the Paiskim. Many say say that you have fulfilled your mitzvah in Kiddush. The Merchas Chinuch says you didn't mention Yitzias Mitzrayim. You have to mention Yitzias Mitzrayim in Kiddush to fulfill your obligation of Kiddush. So he says you did not fulfill your mitzvah of mitzvah deraisa. So that's a fair point. That actually gets into this for a different reason of why would you say Kiddush? Well, we have two mitzvahs. We're going to make a Beri Piragavan and Kiddush. There's another svar besides for these svaras that Tosfos that Beis Shammai and Hillel said. What about the idea that you have to say? What about the idea that a deraisa and derabanan? Beri Piragavan is derabanan. Kiddush, like you mentioned, is deraisa. So you should make a Kiddush bracha on Kiddush first. So Yesh Ayrim, like you mentioned, that you're already Yotzei mitzvah deraisa of Kiddush in davening. So now you only have mitzvah derabanan. So now we go back to some other svaras. That would only help if you daven Ma'ariv. But a woman who didn't daven Ma'ariv, then you're back to the other issue. They should say Kiddush. They should say Beri Piragavan first. Okay, but that was that need in the deraisa derabanan. They should say Kiddush first. Okay, but this is only the first svara of Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel gives another svara, and that is Davar Acher, a second pshat. Birchas hayayin tedira, ubirchas hayayim eini tedira. The Beri Piragavan is a bracha you make often. The birchas hayayim you make once a week, eini tedira. It's not as common as often as Kiddush. And the rule is tadir v'she'eni tadir, tadir kaidem. When you have a tadir and an eini tadir, if something which is tadir is something that is more constant, something you do more often. Something you do less often, there's something that you do often comes first. And that is actually a din da'iraisa. The halach of tadir v'she'eni tadir is a din da'iraisa. Yes, that is learned from Shabbos. We say the pasuk, Rashbam brings oila Shabbos b'Shabbat. Al oila, it says milvad oila sabeker. Besides for the oila sabeker asher la'oila satamid, besides for the oila sabeker which you brought as oila satamid, you bring a carbon for a carbon musaf. So it's mashal that after you bring the carbon tamid, that's when you bring the carbon musaf. Asher la'oila satamid. The extra pasuk is here to teach you this rule of tadir v'she'eni tadir, tadir kaidam. Okay, so therefore he says that's why you're going to make a another reason why you'll make hagafen before you make Kiddush. Now, why is hagafen more tadir?
You could say it every day.
You could, but do you? Is it a mitzvah? Is it a chiyuv? I mean, when we're looking at tadir v'she'eni tadir, are we talking about things that you do that you have to do? Like what gets into this? You could do. Okay, I don't know. Some people don't drink wine. I don't know. They drink, but how often do they make a birth again? That was their Chamar Medina. That's what they drink all the day. So that's what they drink. So that was sort of interesting. I thought it was a Rashi somewhere. I thought it was like a Actually, it says that the reason why wine is called tadir is because you say it often, but for obligations, bris milah, pidyon ben, nisuin, erison, at all these events you have wine. Besides for Kiddush weekly, by other events they're nitkan, like they established it to be for called they do mitzvahs over wine. Now I tell you why I mention this, because there is a shaila. What you do when you put on your tefillin or your tzitzis first? You put your tzitzis on first, right? So one of the in the Shulchan Aruch, one of the reasons broad why you bring your tzitzis that tzitzis comes first is because it's tadir. Tadir v'sheni tadir. Why is it more tadir than why is it more tadir than a tefillin? Because tefillin you don't wear on Shabbos. Tefillin you don't wear at night. So tadir v'sheni tadir. It depends. The machlokes rishonim what kind of tadir. That's tadir v'sheni tadir. So they ask, "What are you talking about? Tadir v'sheni tadir? You don't have to wear tzitzis every day. You got to wear tefillin every day, right?
You have to wear only if you have a beged.
If you have a beged, so we have a minhag that wear. But lamaisa is no chiyuv. So in terms of chiyuvim, so the chiyuv of tefillin is more tadir than the chiyuv of tzitzis. That's a kasha. So I saw once a malbim. Malbim has a sefer on on halacha. The first it's called Eitzrus Chaim. Eitzrus I forgot what it's called now, but it's on the first 25 simanim in Shulchan Aruch Chaim. Mr. Brewer quotes him. So he says that you're right. It's not. You don't have a chiyuv. It's not in terms of chiyuv, but tadir v'sheni tadir is not in terms of chiyuvim. It's practically which one are you doing more often. So that's what I was thinking. That could be telling him what this tadir here is. You're right. Making a brave agafen is the fact. I mean, I was wondering why Rashi has to, whoever this was who said that it has to do with because milah that have to do with you say a agafen. You just say that you drink wine every day. So it could be it's telling this shayla of how you look at tadir. Is it something that you're mechuyev to do, or is it something you have a mitzvah to do, something that you can do? So it falls into that. Okay. So the Gemara weiter. Now the hilchazah kediv beisil. The halacha follows beisil. Correct the Gemara. My davracher. Why did beisil have to bring a second shot? His first shot was very good. He said that the yain without wine you're not making a kiddush. So he said like this. Over there we have two svars, meaning I think it was Beis Shammai gave us two svars. And I'm only giving you one reason. So I got two svars also. Since when do you have to tell me that halacha follows Beisil? That's always the case. Zamar says the hanafik baskel. A baskel went out and said the halacha is like Beisil. So why do you have to paskin? Why do you have to tell me the halacha is like Beisil? Says. No, that's a Abai and Rava, Yalkagam. There are some exceptions. There were the Shleishes, the Shemayin Esrei Davar, that they were in the attic where they were. It was remote. Then they counted. They had more. I don't remember. Our kids there was a baskel went out. We passed like Beis Hillel. So why do you have to tell me the halacha here is like Beis Hillel? So Ibra Sema, either we're talking about Kodim baskel. We're talking about before the baskel went out. So you have to tell me that, meaning generally the halacha is you could do like either one. You could do like Beis Shammai or Beis Hillel. If you want, before the baskel went out, you're allowed to do like either one. So over here we're passing even before the baskel went out, still the halacha here is only like Beis Hillel, and you don't have an option. The Ibra Sema alternatively la'achar baskel. We're talking about after the baskel went out. The Rabbi Shui, and we're passing like Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua said, remember with the story of the Achsenoi in the story of the Achsanoi, Beis Hillel said that Rabbi Yeshua, remember the story with the oven that Rabbi Lezer said, "Oh, I'll bring the walls of the Beis Medrash shall start trembling," and Baskel went out, and Rabbi Yeshua said, "Loi b'Shamayim ema shkichim Baskel." So therefore, we want to bring the one wants a Pascal and Lachik Beis Hillel. Now, take a look at the third thesis here. The Amr ema shkichim Baskel. Correct thesis. Mishnah the Kaimelon Kebaskel Beis Hillel. V'loi Kaimelon Kebaskel the Rabbi Eliezer. What's taka the difference? Meaning, if you hold like if we paskel like the Baskel, so then why don't we paskel like the Baskel of Rabbi Eliezer? The Yesh Leimer says Taisus. The Hocha Beis Hillel have a ruba. Beis Hillel anyway is the Rav. We paskel like we anyway we should paskel like him. Ella the Beis Shammai mechad de tvei. Beis Shammai were sharper. So therefore, we really, there's like Aval Hasan Baba Kamal you connected Rabbim like Kaimel and Hachi. So in here, really, anyway, the halacha is we follow the Rav. There's a time the Beis Shammai was machad de tvei, so we weren't sure should we pass like the Rav or should we pass like those that are machad de tvei, sharper. So the Bastel came out and says we pass like Beis Hillel. Okay. Over there by Rebbe Eliezer, it was a one against the Rabbim. No one passed like Rebbe Eliezer. So we didn't need the Baskel at all. And we don't pass like the Baskel. Like, it only came out to give him covered. Because I'm reading Hustle, like the Gemara says over there, he was trying to show that so the Shemaim should prove to me that I'm right. So the covered Rebbe Eliezer, there was a Baskel. But
right, but we don't pass him like
correct. Right. We give you cover, but we don't pass like you. V'im Taimar, Im Kain Hechi Kam Rabbi Yeshua. Then why is the one saying now it's Rabbi Yeshua? Rabbi Yeshua Kaya Baskel to Rabbi Eliezer. Meaning, what is it? The Gemara at the bottom. The Gemara said, "Oh, you know what? Maybe we're talking about after the Baskel went out, and we need to say the halacha like Beis Hillel, not like to say not like Rabbi Yeshua." Meaning, I'm sorry. In deference to Rabbi Yeshua, because Rabbi Yeshua says "Emashkichim a Baskel." We don't listen to a Baskel, so therefore the Gemara here has to pass like Beis Hillel. So, in fact, says, yeah, but when did Rabbi Yeshua say we don't pass like a Baskel? That was on that Gemara Rabbi Eliezer. So, obviously that Baskel only came out l'chvaydai. So we don't need you to say more information. So then from the fact that Rabbi Yeshua said that we're not mashkichim Baskel, he was saying in any event, even in a case where even that it wasn't coming l'chvaydai, we don't pass like a Baskel. That's why over here we'd have to say the halacha is like Beis Hillel. Okay. Zog Mishnah. Here we go. We're moving along in the Seder. What comes next after Kaddish? So we have Haviu Lefanov. They bring in front of him. What? It doesn't say what they brought in front of him. Rashbam says, Yerukas. You brought in front of him vegetables. All right, so that's karpas. So mitabel bechazeres. So you can eat your vegetables. You eat your chazeres. Mitabel bechazeres. Now, okay. Mitabel bechazeres ad shemagila b'persa pasta. You can eat chazeres now, and you're doing that before they bring you before they bring the maror, basically. So let's go through these words. First of all, Haviu lefanav means you're bringing him yerukas, vegetables. What does it mean to be mitabel bechazeres? You're dipping the chazeres? Well, sort of. Mitabel is just a way they speak when you, instead of using the word eat, they'll say being mitabel, because most of the food they ate was through tibul. So that's the way they say you eat the chazeres. Now, you don't eat chazeres now. Now's the time to eat vegetables. The Mishnah is telling you a chiddush, that even if the only vegetable you have is the maror that you're going to be eating later, you can eat it now as well. Okay. Now, do you dip what you're about to eat? Well, if you're having vegetables, Rashbam says, you can dip it into some You can dip it into some. He doesn't bring it here. Someone brought it. Maybe Rashbam. Someone said you dip it in salt water or chaimitz. That's what you dip it in. What? Vinegar, like wine vinegar. No. Rashbam says though you will not use charesis. I know you don't use charesis because they didn't bring the charesis yet. You'll see in the Mishnah in a minute that they're going to tell you that you're going to have, in a moment, we're going to have more, they're going to bring the charesis. So they didn't bring the charesis. No, charesis.
This is the mixture of
yeah, for the maror.
The maror.
But here you're eating maror. So in a scenario where you were eating maror, Rashbam says you still won't eat charesis with it.
Later on, the maror has to be
correct. That is correct.
Maybe that's why it's being now.
So, well, you don't bring the maror. The Mishnah is going to tell you when you brought the charesis. So from he's been dying from the fact that the Mishnah didn't tell you if you're having chazeres now, you're having maror now, you should dip it into charesis, is a raya that you don't dip your karpas in charesis even if you're eating maror for your vegetable. Now, Tais is like, what are you talking about? Do you know why we dip our charesis in maror? Our maror in charesis? Because it's dangerous. There's some kappa, it's too sharp. So what would be the difference? Why wouldn't you do it now too, if this is an issue? So he says, yeah, if you're using some other vegetables, you would not dip it into charesis. You dip it into vinegar or salt water, Taisa says. But if you're going to use maror, then you should use charesis. That is, I think what Taisa holds. I'm sorry? Yeah, we're going to take a look at Klema. Taisa from Metabel Chazeres Klema, that means Oichel Chazer. It's another way of saying Oichel. Betibul Kamoy Hashemesh Shamish Metabel B'nei Mayayim. Said that the Mishnah had a Mishnah before that the Shamish would be eating the intestines of that was what he got to eat. So he uses lashon of Metabel, and that's V'chein Metabel B'Yerakas. You dip vegetables. The Bekrodnami Mishtayhachi. The Pasuk also uses a language like this. Okay, Pirush Rashbam. The high tibul love becharesis. This dunking you're doing, this eating is not in charesis. The katilaiba, you didn't bring it to the table yet. Because the Tani Sefer, like the end of the Mishnah, is going to say, "Have you left of matzah bechazeres becharesis?" The veins are raya. That's not a good raya. The katani alcha chazeres. Over here it says chazeres. The Tani Nami b'Sefer, and it says it in the Sefer also. So if it wrote chaveris, it didn't write chaveris, that's not a raya. Void, the chazeres, you have to dip your chazeres in the chaveris, mishum kafa, because of its sharpness. For me, but if your original dunk, original vegetable, if your karpas is not, is a regular vegetable, ain't tzarich l'tabel b'charesis. Vegetables you don't dip in charesis. Ela oich b'chaimitz, either vinegar or b'mayim or melech or salt water. Rabbeinu Tam did the Amr b'gemar b'charesis mishum kafa, because charesis is for kafa, but like a kafa. Lamar, that's only an issue with mar. The kol shkein Rabbi Elazar b'tzadik the Gamar matzah mitzvah zeichel atit. For sure, according to Rabbi Elazar b'tzadik, who says the reason why you have matzah, charesis, is it's a mitzvah zeicher to the cement. You'd only have that zeicher by the maror. It's not shaykh. There's no mitzvah here. You can't tell me it's a mitzvah to dip in charesis, because why are you dipping in the first place by karpas? It's just to make a show so the kid should ask a question. What are you doing? Now that's all very nice. This is Taisus and Shita Rashbam Shita. No dipping in charesis, but move over a little bit if you don't mind. We're almost done here, but they're just trying to. Now Taisus brings Rabbeinu Yosef, Rashi. It sounds like Rabbeinu Shlomo and Rabbeinu Shmaya. They all were metabel b'charesis. They ate karpas in charesis.
karpas they ate chazeres.
No. But they held that you're supposed to dip your karpas in charesis. That is the shita of the end of Pesach quotes 3 Rishonim that would dip their karpas in charesis. Now I forgot the reason for that. I'll tell you in a second. Just hit the Shabbos clock. Thank you. So why are they dipping in the charesis? I don't know. For a certain reason. The last line in Tesis. With the loy Rav Yosef she'aseh b'sidrei v'yitva b'charesis. You would dip it in charesis. V'chein Rabbeinu Shlomo b'sidurei v'Rabbeinu Shmaya. They all held that you got to dip in charesis. I think so. Okay. Now, they dip karpas into charesis. Okay, let's see the end of the Mishnah. Now this is done ad shemagia paperes hapas. You would do this before you reach the paperes hapas, which is the maror. Maror is the appetizer for the bread. You know, you eat the bread first, but you would have correct. Well, you're metapel b'chazeres. You do that dipping, and that is kadesh yishul atinoikes. Your kid should ask you, "What are you doing? Why are you dipping now?" And then you, after you dip, so now havi lefad of matzah v'chazeres v'charoises v'shnei tavshilin. Now you bring in front of the guy to the Seder matzah, chazeres, maror, charoises. To dip your chabar, shnei tavshilin, zecher le Pesach and zecher to the shlamim. Ava pisha in charesis mitzvah. Now the Tanna Kamol, even the charesis is not a mitzvah, you still bring it. Mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to have charesis, like we just saw in Tesis, because it's a zecher letit. At this point, they would bring the gufei shel Pesach, in order that they should be able to talk about the Pesach.
So you're saying that it sounds like this is before Magid and the
Well, correct.
They did the Pazeres,
no, they started with karpas. Then they brought the rest of the matzah. They brought everything to the table. They brought the ka'ara to the table. It's like the ka'ara. So the ka'ara has your matzahs, and it has your maror, it has your charesis. Take a look at the second to last tesis. Haviu lefad of matzah. Lefisha akru hashulchan. Lefnei misha emer agada. Va'isa seder. The second to last one. Haviu lefad of matzah. Lefi, you have to bring him the matzah. Why? Lefisha akru hashulchan, because they took it away. In front of the Baal Seder, because they took it away from him. Katan therefore now has to say, they bring it in front of a matzah. They took it away in order that the kid should ask. What does he add? They're going to bring the food now to do a second dipping. Then the son asks, why are we dipping twice? Right when they remove it, machzilafam, they bring it back. Why? Why do you have to have it there? Because a matzav amar Allah shaytzarch lemer b'haggadah matzazu marzu. We want to have the mat. You have to say matzazu. You have to be able to point to it. This is a marzu, and you want to have that. It's lechem ayni she'en lav dorm harbe. These are things that we want to have the matzah and the mar on the table. Okay. Baruch Hashem, we did Kuf Yadalit. My guess is we're probably not going to do tomorrow, and we'll do double on Wednesday.
You're not learning tomorrow. We're not doing this tomorrow.